Hello everyone, and today we're going to show you how to make a custom-made carbon fiber part from scratch. Now this is a very easy process, it's not hard to do at all, and in fact it's even quicker to make one. And just to give you a heads up, this is kind of a continuation from a previous video. We went ahead and made a custom-made master cylinder cover. Basically we made a plug, then we made the mold, and from there we're able to make as many parts as we'd like right out of fiberglass. And it came out looking really good, but I want to continue on and make one out of carbon fiber this time. So I grabbed our old mold right out of storage. Looks a little worse for wear, kind of beat up, but this will do just to show you how the process goes. And not to waste time, let's jump in. First step we're going to do is apply our mold release paste wax. And we're going to use this with an applicator pad and a microfiber cloth. And this is the same wax we used in the previous video, so we're going to be able to save a little bit of money. Let's put a little bit of that wax in our applicator pad. And we'll go ahead and do small circular motions, and we're going to do about 3 to 4 coats. I'll probably do 4 coats since this has been in storage for a while. And make sure we get it everywhere, every nook and cranny. Wait about 30 seconds. Now we grab our microfiber cloth and go ahead and buff it out. Requires a little bit of elbow grease, but should have a nice, beautiful shine. And that looks pretty good. Now let's do the second coat. And while I'm doing these coats, I do want to address the elephant in the room. Yeah, I am aware I'm not making a custom-made part from scratch where I'm making a plug, a mold, and then the carbon fiber part. Instead, you see me jumping straight from the mold and then from on there. Well, that's because in the previous video, the fiberglass video, this mold process is going to be the exact same. If I want to make a plug and then a mold, I would do the exact same steps. I wouldn't change anything. It's just after I have the mold, that's where this video would continue on. So that's all I'm doing here, just as an FYI.
Eventually.
And after about an hour, we let the wax gas off. Looks like we have a nice beautiful shine. Definitely looks better than when it was in storage. Let's keep moving forward. Next, let's grab our painter's tape. And you can use any painter's tape you have laying around, no particular width in mind. And I want to tape off the very edges. It's about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch from the edge. And I want to try to make this as clean as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I want to leave enough gap for we use our vacuum sealant tape later on. And for our last edge, yep, looks pretty good. And for our next step, we will need our PPE gear. So you're going to need a respirator and safety glasses. That's very important. Because the product we're going to be using is a Duratec Sunshield top coat. It's like a clear gel coat, but it looks like clear coat. It's really good stuff, comes out very nice. And of course, we're going to treat it kind of like gel coat. So we're going to put a little bit in a mixing cup. And about 10 ounces looks pretty good. Now let's grab our catalyst, which is MEKP9. This is the same stuff we used on gel coat and polyester and vinyl ester resin. Now, of course, we'll grab our eyedropper, and I'll see if I can bring it in and show you the increments. So it's got little lines and increments on there, and that's in milliliters, which is great because all I need is about 2%, which is about 5.96 milliliters roughly. And that's about 3 right there, and about 2.9. We'll put our cap back on, and you want to stir for a minimum of 1 minute. So I'll grab our mixing stick. And you're going to notice this changed colors. We started kind of a pinkish color. And now when you see me pour it in, look at it, it's kind of a brownish color. So that's expected when using this product. And of course, we're going to use our funnel, just keep all the dust and debris out of there. And once this is mixed, you have about 20 minutes before it starts gelling off or kicking off. So make sure you use your time wisely. And as far as our spray gun, it's about 40 psi, and we have a nozzle of 2.0 millimeters. And that looks pretty good. So our first coat, we're going to do a very, very light dust coat, kind of a mist. And that's it. Wait 3 minutes. And now we can start on the second coat, and this is going to be a medium coat. So I'm going to start one direction. Looks pretty good. Then I'll switch directions. And again, you don't want to make it too heavy. Just keep a nice medium coat. Looks pretty good. One little area I missed. And off to the side. And then we'll wait another 3 minutes. And then we'll continue on with the next medium coat. So it's basically coat number 3. Same process. Make sure I get every nook and cranny. Wait 3 minutes, do the 4th coat. So basically you're doing 1 mist coat, 4 medium coats. And now for our last medium coat. And that looks pretty good. That's all we're going to need. Now if you want to go thicker, you can. Unfortunately, that's where it starts kicking off in the gun, because I did try to do a 6th coat just to see if I could. And unfortunately, you can see there's nothing coming out of it. So that's it. That's all you're going to get out of it. And this is a perfect time to share this bit of information. I did try using this product at first and playing with it as far as treating it like gel coat. In other words, I was trying to do very thick coats all at once or really quickly. Like I was doing basically like almost 7 mil passes and letting it gas off for 3 minutes. Unfortunately, that was way too much too fast because it started getting runs and pulls. So the trick is do thin coats. So now let's return to our successful spray method. And we're going to check the thickness. So I have our gel coat gauge. And we'll take a look. Okay, so far so good. So you want about 12 mils. That's what we're looking for. And it looks like we have almost 15. So I say between the 10 and 15 mark, which is exactly what we want. 12 mils is ideal for UV protection. And after about 30 minutes, let's go and remove the tape while it's still wet. And I'm doing this very gently. I'm trying not to mess up our nice, beautiful spray method we did. And almost there. And there we go.
2 hours later.
And let's go ahead and check on it, see how dry it is. And let's see. So I'm pressing it with my finger, a little bit of an impression. So, not transferring, but it's not exactly cured yet. Give it a little bit longer.
5 hours later.
And after about 5 hours have passed, it looks like the clear coat hardened up very nicely. Got a beautiful shine. So let's move forward and go ahead and scuff up the surface. And we're going to use a scuff pad for this one, but if you like, you can use 180 grit sandpaper. But this scuff pad's equivalent about a 150, roughly. I like using the scuff pad because it's easier getting the nook and crannies, and it's just easier on the hands. And the whole idea is we want to kind of scratch or scuff the surface just so the resin has something to adhere to. Just makes it a better bond. Looks pretty good. And now let's clean off that dust. We're going to use some distilled water, very simple. And basically you just want to rinse off all this dust, clean it off as best we can. And distilled water you could pick up pretty much at any one of your grocery stores or anything. Cheap and easy to come by. And we'll wait for that to dry. And here's where the fun begins. Let's go ahead and start applying our vacuum seal tape. And it's pretty easy. Sticky side goes down, and we're going to go along those edges we taped off earlier. And that corner looks good. Snip it off. Peel back the paper, and we're going to overlap the previous tape with the next one. And there we go. Go along that same edge. Press it down. And then we'll work our way around for the rest of the mold. And so far so good. So now let's pull out our carbon fiber fabric. Now this stuff, it comes in a yard for me, and I bought a very, very small roll just to get me by. It is a little bit on the pricey side. And I'll show you what I'm going to do as far as how to cut it. Now I'm going to pull one of these strands at the very bottom just for one reason. It's going to provide me a cutting guide. Let's see if I can get my hands on there. Come on. There we go. So I'm going to pull one of these strands out. Back the camera up. And then pull all the way out. There we go. So now I have a line that kind of guides me as a straight cut. And I'm just using a basic pair of scissors, nothing fancy. These are a little dull, but they'll get by. And let's fold this over. It just happened to be the exact length I need, so it worked out. So we'll go ahead and cut that in half. Now for this one, I'm only going to use 2 sheets, just to show you the process. I do recommend more or using laminator bulker, which I'll show you later. But for this one, I'm going to use 2, and they're very thin. They're only 6 ounces. So I'll put that in place, or at least kind of get an idea where it's going. Then we'll grab our adhesive spray. This is special. This is 3M 71, ideal for this particular process. We'll fold our cloth back, put a little bit of light spray. You do not need much, starting in the middle-ish. And then very gently fold the cloth back. You basically want to almost lay it on there. You don't want to press it in or stretch it. Just see how I'm picking it up, and I'm kind of just patting it in place. I'm being very gentle with it, especially when pressing it in the corners. And we're just going to work our way around the whole mold just until it looks like a nice clean blanket over a bed. And working my way around. Starting to look pretty good. Now let's lift up the front. And again, a very light spray. You do not need much, just a mist. And just the same as the other side, I'm going to lay it down very gently and pat it right in all the corners. So you basically want to fill every void, make this look as contoured as possible. Because this first layer is the most critical. Whatever you do here, it's going to show on the outside. So if you do a bad job here, it's going to show. And now that we got it in place, grab our scissors, and we're going to cut right along the edges. I basically want to cut as close as I can to the edge while giving a little bit of space. And obviously you want to give yourself a nice amount of space between the tape and the carbon fiber cloth. And that looks pretty good. kind of spaghetti, but it'll definitely work for this application. You won't notice it when we're done. Now let's do our second layer, and we're going to repeat the exact same thing. Put a little bit of spray in the middle. Push it down very gently, and then work our way to the edges. And again, I'm being very, very gentle while lifting up the cloth, just to make it nice and perfect. And that looks really good. And same thing, grab our scissors, do the exact same thing. Now if you want, you can keep those extra pieces that are cut off, because you can go ahead and use that later on for other projects. And I'll think that will do for our first part. Now later on, I do make 3 parts total. This is part number 2. I went ahead and added that laminate bulker I was telling you about. This bulker material is very good stuff. You can get in different thicknesses. It's ideal for exactly what we're doing. You basically sandwich this between 2 pieces. So I went ahead and did the same thing. I already put 2 of those carbon fiber cloths down, and I already pre-cut this bulker material. It's basically like almost like a sponge. And I put it right into place. See how nice it looks? Looks pretty good. And then we'll take another carbon fiber cloth, put that right on top just to sandwich it, and do the same thing. Put a little bit of spray down, and then we'll very gently just press it right against that bulker material. And it's pretty much that easy. So going back to our original part again, we can apply our next layer, and this is going to be release fabric. And it's just like it sounds. It's going to be basically releasing anything you put on top of this. So it's going to keep all of our vacuum bagging and all our other material from sticking to your carbon fiber cloth. That's the last thing you want, is basically everything sticking together. And the same thing as earlier, I'm going to put a little bit of spray down. You don't necessarily need to do it for most molds, but I'm doing it for this one because I don't have a lot of space to work with. So I'm going to use a little bit of spray and do the same thing. And this stuff is a lot thinner, so it's a lot easier to get in place and get all the wrinkles out. And that's starting to look pretty good. Same thing, grab our scissors. Now this stuff, you want to get as close as you can to that vacuum sealant, because you're going to want everything to peel off from it, so get as close as you can. And that looks good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect, just good. Now for our next layer, this stuff is very, very important when doing any type of infusion. This is infusion mesh. And this is probably going to be your easiest layer as far as cutting around it. So I'll try to get it in place. Now I'm going to just go ahead and throw a wrench on it, just as a paperweight, nothing more. And then we'll cut around the edges. Now just an FYI, it's very important if you have this when doing vacuum infusion, because later on in the video I want to show you what happens when you go ahead and omit this material. And just like every other layer, I'm going to apply a little bit of spray just to hold things in place. It just makes it easier when applying the next layer. These are not mandatory, it's just easier for me. And we're almost there. I know this is painful. So now I'm going to grab my spiral wrap, and this is 1/2-inch stuff. Very cheap, easy to come by. It's usually used for cables, but this one we're going to use for a little bit of vacuuming. And I've got my T's, 1/4 inch of course, and I got my vacuum hoses. And you're going to need 2 T's. I'll show you what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and insert our 1/4 inch tubing right in our T's, and we're going to place it about right there. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to use this spiral tubing, or spiral wrap, and we're going to need about almost the length of the front. Cut it right there. And we'll do the same thing on the rear as well. That looks about right. And just like a majority of these layers, it doesn't have to be perfect, but the longer the better. So it's going to be about right there, basically in the center. So I'm going to want my T right in the center of that. And wrap the swirl around it. Looks pretty good. So this is going to be the vacuum side. So air is going to pull basically down the spiral wrap. And we're going to want to hold it right there. So I'll show you how we do this. We're going to grab that vacuum seal tape, and we're going to go around the hose. And take your time on this one, and try not to create any wrinkles. You're going to regret it later if you do. And a few inches will do. Snip it off. And check it again. Yep. I'm going to peel back the paper right in the middle. That looks good right there. We'll go ahead and secure the hose right there, somewhat in the center. And we'll try to put the paper back on. That way nothing really gets any dust or debris on there. And yep, that looks pretty good. We'll smash it down a little bit more later. And let's go ahead and hold down the wrap as well. And I want to use resin tape. This is also known as polyester, like high temp tape. Basically, again, we just want to hold it in place. I don't want that kind of floating on the part. I just want to keep it close to the edges. And that'll work right there. Let's repeat the exact same steps on the supply side. So again, get it close to the edge. Put some vacuum seal tape around it. Now this side is going to be where the resin is going to be going into the part, and the other side is where it's going to be pulling a vacuum and pulling the resin through the part. And that looks like it's pretty good right there. Alright, we're almost there. And now for our next step, this is also really important. We're going to insert or add pleats to our tape. Pleats are very, very important. This is going to basically keep the vacuum bagging from stretching and allow a lot of slack in the corners as well as throughout the whole mold itself. And you're going to basically make it look like that, and we're going to put it at minimum one in each corner. It's always okay to add more, but you're going to at least want to start with the corners. And of course, we'll put our paper right back on the tape just so we don't get anything debris or stickiness on there. Now, something I also want to go over with you, when you make pleats, let me see, I'll show you. This is kind of what we're looking at as far as how much we're going to use for this particular mold size. Some may be bigger, some may be smaller. But the trick is you need to know how to extend these or shorten them. So let's just say you need to extend them just because the bag is too long. Well, we're going to peel back a little bit of this one, and all you have to do is take that same sealant and fold it right on top of that pleat, just like that, and pinch it down as much as you can. You want to make it seem like one uniform piece. Now, let's say you want to do the opposite. You have very little bag to work with, and you need to make the pleat slightly shorter. Well, all we have to do is take our top piece and roll it over just a little bit. And now we're able to shorten it. And again, if you press it together, it still seems like one seal or one piece. And that's all you have to do as far as lengthening it or shortening it, which is very important when we get to the bagging process. So I'll go ahead and continue on to our original part. And the same thing, I want to make our pleats. They're about, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 inches tall. And at minimum, I want to start in all the corners. Now for this project, I'm actually very fortunate since there's not a lot of depth to this mold and it's not very big, so pleats in the corners will do just fine. However, if you have a deeper mold, you might want to add more pleats as well as kind of preset the vacuum bagging earlier. Alright, for our very last layer, this is going to be our vacuum bag film. So same thing, I want to kind of get an idea of how big it needs to be. Now this one, I'm going to add a few inches above and below it. So I'm going to go about 3 to 4 inches on both sides extra, and that's very important. That's going to give us some slack for this mold. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start at the very corner. Peel back that paper. And I'm just going to allow just an extra inch on the edge just because it makes it easier for me to guide it. Now we're going to go to the opposite edge. This is, again, very important how you do this process. Same thing, I'm going to do basically 1 inch from each corner. And again, press it down very firm. We do not want any wrinkles. Go to this corner, do the same thing, about 1 inch. And, yep, looks pretty good. And we'll do our last corner as well. Now you're going to notice all this extra slack. That's what we want. So lift it up. That way you can determine your middle. Make sure that's pressed down. So that's our middle right there. So now we'll go back to the middle of our tape. And then we're going to start from the middle and work our way to those corners. And I'm going to very gently start right there. And I'm going to press it down as flat as humanly possible. Take your time. You're almost stretching the vacuum bag when you're laying it down. The last thing you want to do is allow a little air to escape because that's going to basically create all kinds of vacuum issues. You bring it in a little bit. Same thing. Peel away the paper and stretching the bag right over it. And this step is probably the most critical step where you need to take your time. If you rush this at all, it will bite you later on, I promise you, and it will be a big headache. Alright, so we have our slack right there. Okay, so I'm going to peel back our paper. This is right where the pleat is. It's very important how you do the pleat too. We'll kind of fold down the pleat and press the bag right against it. Once you do that, we're going to fold it over to the other direction and repeat the exact same thing. Have it go around that pleat and contour perfectly. And press everything down. Make sure it's nice and firm. Okay, that's one corner. Repeat the same thing. We'll fold down the pleats. And I'm pressing down very firm as I'm doing this. And we're going to work our way around the whole mold until the whole thing is done. And now let's bring in where all the upfront cost comes in, the vacuum equipment. So we have our vacuum pump, and we have our trap vacuum chamber. Now this is ideal for anytime resin goes through the tubes and you don't want it to go into the pump. So you want it to basically get trapped or caught somewhere else. And we put a cup in that trap chamber just again so all the resin goes in the cup and doesn't make a mess inside my container. And I'll just go ahead and install our 1/4 inch hose right into that trap. I'll try to face the gauge towards us a little bit. And on the other side for now, this is where the supply side is. All I'm going to do is crimp off that hose. Now you can use hose clamps if you want. I just basically use a little vice grips just to pinch it for now. So now I think we're ready to pull vacuum. Let me shut off my relief valve. And it looks good. Let's turn on our vacuum. And yep, after a few minutes, it doesn't look like it's pulling much of a vacuum. Let's check right where the hoses are. That's usually where the first leaks come in. We'll press those down very, very hard. Look around some more. Everything looks pretty good there. Okay, no holes. That's a good sign. Alright, let's go around the seal and start pushing down the vacuum bag against the seal. That's usually where the common issues are. So all you gotta do is go around every pleat, push everything down. And it looks like we're starting to get a vacuum now, so it pretty much looks like a simple fix so far. Yep, pleats look good. I'm just going to do one more check, go all the way around, just to make sure we don't get any leaks. And after turning it off, I didn't hear any leaks, so let's go ahead and turn it on one more time. And shut off my valve to my vacuum pump. And we're going to go ahead and watch it for a few minutes. We want to make sure we don't have any vacuum leaks. So it looks like we're peaked out right on our gauge. And since we're not moving, let's go ahead and perform our vacuum drop test. Basically, since we have a vacuum pulled on our mold, we're going to leave it just like this, just to make sure that we don't have any leaks at all. So you're going to do this for about 30 minutes. And as long as the gauge doesn't move within that 30 minutes, you're usually in great shape and we can move forward. So let's go ahead and wait this out.
Eventually.
And it looks like we're pretty good, so let's go and mix up our epoxy resin. So we have a clear laminating resin, and we have our hardener. And this is slow hardener, which is pretty much the slowest I got. That means it's got a good pot life. And on our mixing cup, we have different ratios. It's going to be a 2-to-1 ratio. So let me bring it in, and we'll use our 2-to-1 ratio scale. So that's mark one line for the resin, one line for the hardener. And that's going to be approximately 9 ounces, roughly. So there's the resin itself. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Probably about 6 ounces. And then we'll put on the top our hardener. And again, we're going to go right up to that number 3 line. And there we go. So we got 2 parts resin, 1 part hardener. And of course, we're going to want to stir for a minimum of 1 minute. And make sure you go all around the edges and make sure you get everything out of there as far as air bubbles. If you have air bubbles, that's bad, which I'll go over more later on. And taking our mixing cup, I'm going to put it inside my mixing cup that's bolted down to a piece of wood. It's going to basically keep it from tipping over. I want it bottom heavy. Looks pretty good. And let me move the camera, zoom it in. Alright, yeah, that looks pretty good. Taking that same hose that we clamped off, we're going to put it right in that resin. And I'm going to clamp it down so the hose doesn't come out. Everything looks secure. Very nice. Let's turn on our vacuum pump. Open up the valve that goes to our vacuum chamber. Alright, so we got a vacuum. Very nice. Now let's go and inject our resin. So let's go and remove that clamp on the resin side. And look at that. You can already see the resin start pouring right into the mold. Let's see how long it takes. And look at that, right at about 6 minutes, it looks like we have all the resin infused right in that part. So let's clamp off the supply side while there's still resin in it. We don't want to induce any air bubbles. And now we can clamp off our vacuum side. Let's go a little bit further down, right there. Clamp it off right there. And then we'll shut off our vacuum and shut off the valve. Now I do want to show you what happens when you omit that infusion mesh I mentioned earlier. And this is what's going to happen. So after 30 minutes, it looks like we're not making a lot of progress. And that's because our resin looked like it gelled up, so that would explain a lot. So now you know why that particular layer is important. Now let's go back to our original part, and I want to go ahead and clamp these off, with something a little bit more semi-permanent. And these you can get from Harbor Freight. I'm just adding a little belt and suspender method there, just in case those vice grips don't hold. And all we're doing is clamping off the hose. I don't necessarily need these, it's just a little extra added support. And with everything looking pretty good, let me go ahead and pick up my camera and I'll show you what we got. I'll bring it in. So we have a little bit of our resin left, not much, but it's good that we had just a little bit to spare, just in case. And of course, looking at our mold slash part, looks like we got a good vacuum. Everything looks really nice. I don't see any air. All right, looks pretty good. Looking at our vacuum line, a little bit of resin in there, and there's some in the trap as well. But overall, looks really good. Let's look in that trap. Yeah, a little bit of resin made it in there as well. That's why we put the cup in there. Well, so far this is looking really good. I can't wait to demold this tomorrow.
24 hours later.
And coming back for the next day, we can go and remove our vacuum equipment. And we'll start with the vice grips. And next we'll go with the Harbor Freight hose clamps. And you can actually see the resin in the hoses, which is pretty funny. They're hardened up. And we'll go ahead and release the air out of the vacuum chamber. Alright, so it looks pretty good. Looks like we're back to atmospheric pressure. Let's lift that lid up and see if we can get that hose out of there. See if I can give it a good pull. And come on. There we go. So it looks like our part is isolated from our vacuum equipment. Look at that. All that extra resin went right in that cup. That's kind of funny. Oh well, easy trash. And it looks like here's the part you've been waiting for. Let's go ahead and start removing the vacuum bagging and start getting everything off. And we'll go ahead and start from the corner and just peel this right away. And so far, it just requires a lot of brute force. So I'm going to hold the part down and pull the vacuum bagging away. And usually this comes off halfway decent, but once in a while I'll get one piece that gets stuck. And one piece right there. There we go. Almost there. And there was a few times I was able to get the sealant off without any left behind, but it looks like I didn't get that lucky this time. But vacuum bag came out pretty easy. Now let's go ahead and grab that release fabric. So I grabbed a corner and same thing. I'm going to start peeling it away. I'm going to hold the part down while doing it. And once you got a good corner ripped away, you get a good grip on it and it comes off a lot easier. Same thing, I'm going to hold the part down and kind of pry it away. And again, we'll start working our way around. And if you notice, the part's kind of lifting out of the mold right now, so it's kind of a good sign. And again, using brute force, work our way all the way around. Come on. Oh, there goes the hose. Almost there. Almost at the very end. Come on. Almost there. It's getting easier. It's getting easier. And come on. There we go. Whew, that was definitely thick. Look at that. And so far we got a nice pretty part. So let's grab our trim removal tools and we'll see if we can get this out. And I'll grab a nice piece. Doesn't really matter which one. And we're going to get right under the edge right over here. And this started feeling like it came out, so this should be pretty easy. Oh, look at that. Yeah, lift it right up. And man, that looks really nice. That looks really good. So after throwing the mold aside, let's take a look closer. Feels really smooth. Looks really nice. Yeah, not too shabby. Very, very light. I know it's only 2 layers thick, but very nice. The back looks pretty good. Has a nice little texture to it. So far, it looks like everything got filled in very nicely. So far, I'm liking what I'm seeing. It looks really good. Now, let's go ahead and look at it a little closer. You do see a little bit of a dull finish or a haze. That's kind of expected when you have a mold that's not perfectly shiny because it transfers to it. Basically, garbage in, garbage out. And in a nutshell, this is due to me being lazy on the mold. But it's an easy fix. All we got to do is polish the part. So I'll take some cutting compound and we'll throw a little bit on the applicator pad and you can go ahead and buff this out. And I'll kind of show you in fast forward motion. I just want to go ahead and show you a piece of it. I'm going to do something else instead, but if you just want to stop right here, you can. You can just go ahead and basically buff it out. And we'll take our microfiber cloth and kind of show you. And already looking at it, you can see it's got more of a shine in that corner just by me doing that little motion. And look at that. A lot of that haze or basically that dullness is basically gone. So overall, easy fix. But we're going to keep moving forward and I'll show you what else we're going to do. So let's go ahead and cut off our flange material. I'm going to tape off the corners first. And the taping off did not only provide a guide, but kind of helped me not hit the part when I'm cutting it, because I'm usually naturally clumsy. And I'm just going to work my way around the corners with that painter's tape. And, yep. And that looks pretty good. That'll definitely work. So now I'll grab my rotary tool and a cutting disc. And I was very fortunate. I only used one cutting disc for this whole job. And it cuts through pretty well. Now, just as a full disclaimer, I am wearing short sleeve because it's like 90 degrees in my shop, but I highly, highly, highly recommend using a long sleeve shirt because this stuff does itch just like fiberglass, especially when you're cutting it. And with the big chunks removed, let's go and remove all this painter's tape. And looks pretty good. Still got a nice little shine in some spots. And using that same rotary tool, we're going to put basically a sanding drum on there. And we're going to go ahead and smooth out all those cuts we made. Basically just match up where all the seams are. And I'm just going to work my way all the way around. Again, this is nothing really much to it. It's just a lot of patience. And this is the same steps we did on the fiberglass part. You're not going to see really anything different here. And yep, nice little clean surface. Now I'm going to throw a microfiber cloth down the table. And the whole idea is I don't really want to scratch it if I don't have to. And we'll grab some sandpaper, about 240 grit will do. Put it on our sanding block. And we're just going to sand the bottom of the part. It just gives us a nice uniform surface, basically makes it all flat compared to when I was doing it with the rotary tool. And we have that one little notch there, so that's something we're also going to have to add as well. And since I have that one little sanding drum on there, I'll add that little notch, and that's for a little wire that's under the hood. Alright, looks pretty good, looks pretty easy. And while I'm at it, let me go ahead and drill those holes. So I'll use our stepper bit. Yeah, looks pretty good. A little bit dirty, but that's no big deal. And here's where I really want to irradiate garbage in, garbage out. Now looking at the mold, you're going to see 2 scratches right there, and that's at minimum. So I had it in storage and I picked it up. I did scratch it a few times, and you can see those little scratches right there. And it's very, very minor. It's almost like micro scratches. So when I pick up the part, guess what? Right in that coating, that top coat we put on, you can see those same 2 scratches that were in the mold. I'm trying to get the angle and the lighting right so you can see it. And right there, they're the 2 same scratches. So we're going to address how to get those out as well, because unfortunately throughout this part, there are little micro scratches like that. I mean, I kind of like attention to detail. So let's grab our soapy water and we're going to begin wet sanding our part. And we'll use 400 grit sandpaper. So this will not only get all those little scratches out, but it'll kind of level out the surface as well. So this is going to be perfect for adding clear coat right on top of it. And we're going to make sure to get every nook and cranny. You want to make a dull surface. That way the clear coat has something to stick to. And of course we'll go ahead and rinse everything off. Okay, so far so good. And we're going to dry it off using a microfiber cloth as well. And we're going to set that aside and let it dry completely. Now let's go and clean the surface with some IPA or rubbing alcohol. Drench it. Grab our microfiber cloth. We want to make sure there's no soapy residue left behind, of course. Let that dry. And now let's grab our 2K clear. So we're going to shake for 2 minutes. Now 2K is really good because it's got a hardener in there, so you do have to mix it. So we'll take the cap off the top, put it right on the bottom of the can, and we got to press that button down. It takes a lot of force. There we go. Felt it press. And we'll hold it down just for a few minutes. And then we'll shake for another 2 minutes. Alright, take a shop towel. Go ahead and wipe the tip off. You periodically want to do this anytime you use a spray can. You want to keep that tip clean. Do a little test spray. Wipe it off. And we'll start with a nice light coat. Again, we always like to start with a mist coat when it comes to our clear coats. And from there, we'll wait 5 minutes and then apply a medium coat. And we'll repeat this probably about 3 to 4 times total. Now I can hear what you're thinking right now. Why am I applying clear coat on top of a top coat that we did inside the mold? Well, that would be a great question, because I can make this part without that in-mold coating, but there's going to be penalties for that, which I'll show you in a minute. But the reason I'm doing a clear coat on top of a clear coat, because I could sand and buff that top coat we did in the mold. In other words, I could have just omitted this part and just sanded and polished it. But for labor's sakes, it's just easier for me to wet sand it and add this clear coat on top and provide an extra layer of protection.
Meanwhile.
And as I mentioned earlier, there are penalties if you don't use the in-mold clear. Because if you just do straight resin injection without that clear, you can get pinholes, is what you see here. Because one of the parts I made, I went ahead and omitted that step just to see what happens. The part came out looking halfway decent. Unfortunately, it does have defects on it. So we need to fix those pinholes and add a layer of protection. And the way we can do this is sand it down with 180 grit sandpaper just to prep the surface for that top coat we used earlier. And that looks pretty good. Now let's go ahead and clean the surface with our IPA. Pretty much our rubbing alcohol. So we'll go ahead and soak it down, grab our microfiber cloth, and clean up all that dust or any residues that could be left behind. Yeah, looks pretty good. We'll let that dry. And we'll grab that top coat, the same stuff we used in the mold. And this is going to go through the same process, same spring gun nozzle method, everything. So we'll go ahead and start with our nice mist or basically our fog coat. And that looks pretty good. Wait 3 minutes. I'm going to apply a medium coat. Same thing, we want a nice uniform spray and change directions if we can. Alright, so it looks like we got good enough amount on there. Let's go ahead and address those pinholes. So I'm going to zoom in, take one of our spreaders, and see if I can move that top coat into those pinhole locations. And I'm trying to be very gentle with this, so bear with me. Alright, filled in halfway decent. And do one swipe this way. Oh, that's definitely a lot better. Yep, that looks pretty good. So now we'll do our medium coat. Starting to look pretty good. Wait our 3 minutes, do another one. Man, this is coming out looking really good. And then our last coat. So it's going to be our fourth and final medium coat. And make sure we get every inch covered. Pick up the camera so that way you can see what I see. So this isn't cured yet or leveled out yet. This is right after I applied it. You can see a little bit of, I guess you could say, orange peel, but that's normal because this is self-leveling. But it does look really good, very promising. Let's go and see how it looks tomorrow.
The next day.
So during this whole evolution, I did make 3 parts. I did the normal process, which we did in the video. I showed you every step that we did. This is the one with 2 layers of carbon fiber, nothing more. So you can see it looks really good. This is the one that we did the in-mold top coat, and it's dirty at the bottom, I do apologize. And then we did the 2K clear coat afterwards. That's this part. And then the second part, this is when we use the laminate bulker. Again, it's going to be the same part, it's just going to be a lot tougher. This stuff is a lot thicker, it's like 4 millimeters thick, really tough. Man, it actually feels really sturdy. A little dirty as well. There's air bubbles in it, but I'm going to go show you that in the bonus features. And then our last one. For part number 3, this is the one we omitted the infusion mesh, so it didn't get all the resin to the very bottom of it. And this is also the one I didn't use the in-mold top coat. Instead, I sprayed it after the fact, and that top coat looks pretty good even after the fact. So overall, that's still a nice looking part. So let's see how the good part looks on the car. Still has a beautiful shine from that 2K clear. It looks really good. And of course, we'll just pop out these retaining pins. Install our nice cover. And taking a walk around it, it looks really good. I know it doesn't match all the other items under the hood, but don't worry, for future projects, it's going to work out. But overall, I loved how this turned out. Came out looking really nice. I also want to thank Eastern Burlap. Those guys were really good as far as answering my questions. They have great customer service. I want to give them a special thank you. Alright, so we have our epoxy resin right here. I just want to show you what could happen when you shake it up. So sometimes you get in a habit of shaking or mixing products before you use them. Well, if you shake it, you're going to induce air bubbles, and air bubbles are bad. So let me show you how they look. So let me pour in a cup right here, and as you can see, yeah, there's a lot of air bubbles in there. You can kind of see it on my mixing stick there. Hold on, might have to bring the camera in a little bit more, so from the side you may not see as well as I can. So zooming in, there we go. So you can see all those little air bubbles in there? That's very bad. If you infused with that, those air bubbles are going to go in your part, and it definitely will show. So this is not a good sign, so I don't recommend shaking it before use. And if you're curious to see how it impacts a part, I'll show you. So I shook it before infusing the laminated bulker part. That's basically my second part I made, just to kind of show you what it's going to look like. So these air bubbles you see are behind that top coat, that one we sprayed at the very beginning. This is basically between your carbon fiber and your top coat, and you can see all those air bubbles, and that's part of it. I can't sand that out. That's pretty much, I got to sand through that top coat just to get all that out, and it's not worth it. So the question you may ask is, well, how do I get rid of those air bubbles? Well, one way, or probably the best way, is use your vacuum chamber. So we'll place our resin in the chamber. Go ahead and take that one area where you put the hose in, and we're just going to crimp it off. That way you just pulls the vacuum straight from the chamber, nowhere else. Shut off our relief valve. Okay, looks pretty good. I'm going to turn on our vacuum. And there we go. You can start seeing all those air bubbles come out. That's a lot of air in that resin. And after about, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes, looks like we're starting to die down. Let's go ahead and open our relief valve. Okay, so far so good. Let's go ahead and pop off our lid. And try not to spill our resin, and look at that. Looks really silky smooth, no air bubbles. That's exactly what we want. I highly recommend vacuum chambering your resin before usage. And for our last piece, just for kicks, I just want to see what the weight difference is. So this is our original fiberglass part we made in the previous video. And moving in, about 500 grams, more or less. Not too bad. This is our 2-layer part. This is the one we used in the whole video here. Still a little dirty at the bottom, I apologize. Moving in, about 125 grams. Not bad at all, that's way lighter. And this is the one with the laminate bulker. This is the one that's really sturdy, probably just as thick as the fiberglass, but really, really strong. I believe it's like 4 millimeters thick when I checked it, and this is probably the standard of majority of the parts I'm going to make. So looking at that, 297 grams, definitely a lot lighter on a fiberglass part and stronger. I'm sold. Well, if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe.